If you ever want to force a vampire to go on a strict diet, just drop them in the Europe in the 1300s. Seriously, you think modern junk food is bad? Try trying to find a snack when everyone is covered in black spots and itchy bug bites. The blood tasted like muddy water and bad decisions. I spent an entire decade hiding in a French basement, and it completely ruined my appetite. Hello, mortals. I am Silas the Immortal, and I have been alive for over 2,500 years, which means when historians say, according to ancient sources, I say, yes, I was standing right there. Today we're talking about the 1340s. Now, you might think your last breakup was a disaster, but compared to the mid-14th century, your life is a literal spa day. Imagine a world where 1 out of every 3 people you know just stops existing. It was called the Black Death, a global pandemic so brutal it makes a horror movie look like a cartoon. I spent the entire decade in a very deep, very quiet cellar in France. Why? Because I was social distancing before it was a hashtag. Also, the food supply was, how do I put this politely, revolting. Let's get into how a bunch of tiny fleas almost ended the human race. To understand the Black Death, you have to understand the Silk Road. Think of it as the ancient version of the internet, but instead of memes, it moved spices, silk, and unfortunately a whole lot of death. It started in Central Asia. The Mongol Empire was doing what they did best, conquering everything, and they accidentally brought along a hitchhiker, a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. Now, what is a bacterium? In simple terms, it's a tiny microscopic jerk that lives to ruin your day. This specific jerk lived in the guts of fleas. The fleas lived on black rats. The rats lived on merchant ships. See the problem? It was a tiered subscription service for death. In 1347, 12 death ships pulled into the harbor of Messina, Sicily. Most of the sailors were already dead. The Sicilians, being sensible people, told the ships to leave, but it was too late. The rats had already walked the plank and headed straight for the local bakeries. Within months, it was spreading across Europe faster than a rumor in a small town. Now, I'm a vampire. I know blood. I appreciate a good vintage. But plague blood. Ugh. It's the expired milk in the back of the fridge of the supernatural world. There were 3 ways this thing killed you, and none of them were gentle. First, the bubonic variety. You'd get these massive, painful swellings called buboes in your armpits or groin. They'd turn black and purple. If you saw those, you had about a 20% chance of seeing next Tuesday. Then there was the pneumonic plague. This one went for the lungs. You'd cough, you'd sneeze, and poof. Everyone in the room now has it, 100% fatal. No survivors. Finally, the septicemic plague. This went straight into the bloodstream. You'd turn black from the inside out because your skin was literally dying while you were still using it. I tried to bite a nobleman in 1348. He tasted like rusted pennies and sadness. I spent the next 3 days brushing my teeth with charcoal just to get the taste out. After that, I switched to a strict diet of hiding in the basement and eating the occasional healthy monk. The worst part? Back then, doctors had 0 clue what a germ was. Their best guess? They thought the disease was caused by bad air. Yes, literally just stinky air. They thought if you smelled something gross, you'd catch the plague. So everyone started carrying around crushed flowers, vinegar, and onions to cover up the smell. Do you know how annoying that is for a vampire with heightened senses? The whole continent smelled like a cheap salad dressing. This led to the famous plague doctor. Now, look at this outfit. The long beak, that wasn't for style. It was stuffed with dried flowers and spices. They thought if they smelled roses instead of rotting bodies, they'd be safe. Spoilers, it didn't work. It just made them look like giant, terrifying pigeons while they died. Since the doctors had no clue what was going on, the medical advice was absolute chaos. One popular treatment was taking a live chicken, plucking its tail feathers, and strapping its bare bottom directly to the infected person. I am completely serious. The official medical strategy was literally, apply chicken to wound. I watched a guy do this in 1348. I didn't know who to feel worse for, the guy dying of the plague or the very confused chicken. If you didn't have a chicken, the backup plan was just filling your pockets with flower petals. They thought they could fight a deadly pandemic with potpourri. Brilliant. Then there were the guys who decided to walk from town to town whipping themselves, hoping it would make the plague go away. Spoiler alert, walking around with open bleeding wounds during a massive outbreak is a terrible idea. Plus, as a vampire, watching people spill perfectly good blood on the dirt for absolutely no reason was deeply upsetting to me. By the time the first wave settled down, 25 to 50 million people in Europe were dead. It was a tragedy, yes, but for the survivors? It was actually a promotion. Before the plague, Europe ran on feudalism. Basically, the kings and lords owned everything, and the peasants, the serfs, did all the work for zero pay and no vacations. It was a terrible deal, but after the plague, there were so few workers left that the peasants finally had the upper hand. They looked at the lords and said, "You want me to plow that field? Great, pay me triple. Also, I want a weekend." Feudalism collapsed, wages went up, people started eating better, they started thinking for themselves. Without the Black Death clearing the deck, we might never have had the Renaissance. No Leonardo da Vinci, no fancy art, just more mud farming. But we are going to talk about the Renaissance in another video. Trust me, you will want to be here for that one. Da Vinci owed me $20, and I have a lot to say about his so-called genius. It's the ultimate irony of history. The greatest disaster the world had ever seen actually paved the way for its golden age. So what did we learn? Wash your hands. Rats are bad roommates. If someone offers you a chicken butt cure, run away. The Black Death changed everything. It was the end of the old world and the messy, bloody birth of the modern one. As for me, I finally came out of my cellar in 1353. The air was fresher, the blood was cleaner, and the survivors were much more interesting to talk to. If you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and unlike a plague doctor, I actually know what I'm talking about. Leave a comment telling me which historical disaster I should talk about next. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a bottle of 1789 Bordeaux calling my name. It's a bit young, but I'll make do. Stay immortal, everyone, or try your best.